Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast. This is episode 1 of the Gameydaddy podcast, and you guys make it a reality. So if you're listening, maybe if you're watching, or maybe if you're doing something and you're just wanting to chill out, then I think you're in the right place where we can talk about gaming. We can talk about, just the state of games in today's world. Now, this podcast is, dedicated for people who are not children. So if you're a kid and you're listening to this podcast, you need to go and do something that is related to children. A lot of the games we're going to be talking about are rated mature, and those are themes that are for grown-ups. Now, one of the really cool things too is, for those of you who have been gaming for years, that gaming has changed. A lot of gamers are no longer, little kids anymore. They've moved on from the childish days to wanting a more serious enterprise in gaming. And so the expectations are just higher, because if you think about the people who played the Atari, they're still gaming till today. Or if there was anything older than the Atari, because even I've never played the Atari, I just know it's kind of like a landmark to talk about, like back in the day. And so this is kind of where I feel like, we need to open a forum for people to discuss what's going on. So if you're listening to this podcast, thank you for making this happen. This is episode 1. However it's going to go, I just took some notes, and I'm just going to talk freely about these things. And, you guys can respond in the comment section, and I'll be reading the comments. And then, I think reading the comments that you guys have to, share are going to actually change the dynamics of the podcast. They're probably going to be providing more episodes on some of the things that we continue to discuss. So we may have to shift the discussion to another episode, because as you guys know, I'm also in the same situation as many of you. I'm a dad myself, so I'm not going to really have too much time to, record too long. So today's goal, we're trying to aim for about, 30 to 45 minutes, if we can make it to that point. And so I guess what we need to do is we need to just first kick off with wins. We got to kick off with some of the really bright highlights. And for me, I have to quickly say this. I just the other day, I eventually caved, and I finally bought The Witcher 3. I bought it from Good Old Games, so 100% of that money goes straight to CD Projekt Red. And yes, shamelessly, I bought it on sale because I've been pushing it back for a long time. But I think this point, there just was no excuse. They gave a free game on the Good Old Games platform. There was an email that went out saying, here's your free game. Take this free game. Take this free game. So I went on there and I took the free game. And I'm like, man, these guys are busting their butts. They're making, Cyberpunk, which is probably going to be dedicated to its own podcast as well. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the game. And so as I was sitting there, I just, considered it, and I said, you know what, I think it's time to purchase this game. I've received hundreds of recommendations from it over the time of doing YouTube. So I fired it up, immediately installed, because I knew, if I leave it in my library, it might just sit there. So I just, I told my wife, I said, babe, let's just sit down and let's, see what this game is about. Now, the opening scene, I was not expecting all of that. Like, they put it right there in your face. CD Projekt Red, we're not afraid about adult themes and all that crap. But I was like, oh, whatever, close my eyes. And then, moved on and started to play the game. And there's something that you just notice immediately you start playing the game. And that is how our Slavic developers are just superior in the way they develop their games. And I think it's because there's a lot of heart that goes into it. There's a lot of respect for the art that goes into it. Gaming is where logic meets art, where, there's this synergy in terms of coding, and you're harmonizing all these things together. And the game is just so good. I mean, it's on PC. They've optimized the game, because I was playing on a GTX 980 Ti, and the game was locked to 60 frames a second. I mean, except for cutscenes that went to like the 30 frames in some cases, the game stayed at 60 frames per second for literally almost the whole 2 hours I played. I think I played over an hour, and I did not see a single frame flinch. It didn't go up, didn't go down. So the game, from when I used to watch a lot of, when I was trying to build my PC, I'd watch a lot of these videos as, that are saying, hey, we're testing these games, and they'll test The Witcher, and, they'll say The Witcher was a little unstable with a lot of these budget builds and all that stuff. But this game just ran smooth. Like, I feel like because of the game's performance in terms of sales and its reputation, they've probably gone back secretly to just work on making the game perform better. And the reason I'm highlighting The Witcher is also the fact that just recently, because of the Witcher TV, spotlight that it's now getting because of the film and whether it's a TV show or whatever, it's been, reported in terms of just people talking, across the internet wires, the cables here on YouTube videos and comment sections, that more people are now logging into the game to actually play the game. I mean, the game is actually getting more and more support in terms of players. Players are coming back. Players who probably had never, made the decision to go ahead and purchase the game are now purchasing the game, and the game is doing so well. This is what we call sowing a seed the right way. And I think CD Projekt Red has got the formula down. I think they understand what it means to make video games. And maybe when they first started, they didn't understand the impact that they were going to make over the years. But it is now very evident that if you do well, if you make your games very, very, very well, people will play them for years to come. If you look at the year The Witcher 3 came out, it was just 2015. And people still talk about the game like, the game is just one of this timeless products, if you understand what I mean. And it just says a lot about them. This is a young studio in my mind, because if you go back and look at the amount of games that they've actually produced, they've basically not necessarily produced more than like 6 games. Like if you look at their list of games, you have Gwent, you have Thronebreaker, The Witcher 1, 2, 3, and then The Witcher adventure game. I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean? I'm looking at their website here. Give me a second. Let's look at that. And it says enter your date of birth. Let's see. Okay. I think it's okay. The Witcher adventure game. I don't know what that is. Is that a mobile game? Oh, it looks like a mobile game. Okay. Then they created a mobile version of it, which we'll still have to call a game, because mobile game development, as much as we, console and PC players look down on them, they take a while to make. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games, of which, they're good projects, but their major project has been The Witcher 3. And yes, they had years to learn from making the first Witcher and making the second Witcher, but it's not like the first Witcher was actually bad. They gave out the first Witcher game, I think, for free, and I downloaded that. Now it felt a little weird because it was like I had to play on a keyboard, and I haven't necessarily played a lot of games like this. But just the 1 hour or maybe 2 hours that I played, you could feel that this game was done so well. Like there's everything that you want in a game: a serious story plot, a seriousness about every single character, and the ambition. My goodness, the ambition of this game, and that is something that I feel like this game is still going to be played 10, 15 years down the road, especially with the way that I feel like it's been recently optimized. Maybe not recently, but it just felt really good to play. And if they continue to optimize the game and release updates and release, patches to the game and fix, little things here and there over the course of a few years, they might just polish the game where you wouldn't even recognize The Witcher 3 from its original state. A lot of things may be cleaned up and the game will be just a solid production that people will probably be playing years down the road. I mean, if this is the amount of detail that they've put in this one game, I mean, I'm literally 2 side missions in, and those side missions already feel like huge missions because they are tied into the game's, story. Well, they feel like side quests, but they are part of the main quest. That like there's nothing that I'm trying to do out of the way, and so far the side quests that I've done, they feel good. They feel well thought out because there's history behind them. They kind of do it in a way where, you want to go and educate yourself on why you're going through this mission. The game is an experience by itself. I mean, I'm reading books, I'm reading descriptions, I'm reading all this stuff, and I think that's how you make video games. It's intimidating. The quality of the game is intimidating because you're playing this game thinking to yourself, am I going to be able to play any other game and not be afraid that it's not going to meet up with the quality? I mean, this is just amazing. And so I guess this is a lesson for everybody to learn. You make a good game, everybody's going to pursue it. If anything about that game shows up in the future, it's probably going to sell your games more. Your marketing is going to sell your games a lot more. I'm looking at an article here on the internet that's saying that CD Projekt Red are masters of marketing. Really? It says CD Projekt Red are masters of marketing. This is written by Tweaktown. And they're here talking about how it understands how to successfully remarket a game many times over using powerful strategies like the Netflix effect to resell and reinvigorate its main franchise. Who wouldn't do that? Like, who would not do that? That is an awesome opportunity to do it. When Terminator was coming out, Mortal Kombat, I think they may have kind of scheduled, their DLC characters to be able to have that maximum impact with Terminator as a character in their game. So that's not, I wouldn't call that masters of marketing. I would call that using common sense, which is something that CD Projekt Red seems to be blessed with a bountiful number of. And so, it's definitely something that needs to happen. So yeah, I'm here looking at a tweet. This is Marcin Momod. I think this is a guy that works at CD Projekt Red. He says on his Twitter, this is a post from December 29th. Awesome. So I'll put a screenshot up here for you guys. It says new player record for the Witcher game on Steam over 4 years after release. The game is knocking down numbers. 93,000 players, 24-hour peak, almost 100,000 players in a 24-hour period, which is ridiculous. If you look now and say, okay, what other games have this kind of, I would say profile down the road? You look, I mean, sad to say, Tom Clancy's Division, they've been talking about a Netflix original movie for it. But is this Netflix original going to actually make people go back and actually purchase the game? I doubt it. I really do doubt it because of the way the game is right now. So that attests to you actually making a quality product. There is no amount of microtransactions that CD Projekt Red could have sold that would actually have made this game what it is today in terms of sales and reputation. There is no amount of microtransactions they could have leveraged. This is the story for the gaming industry to see. And if they don't learn from this, no worries. Other studios are going to come and learn from this. And the studios that don't learn are going to eventually shut down and die. But this studio, they understand what it means to actually make games and serve a community. So I guess we can just, put CD Projekt Red's card on the wall and say, you guys have done a great job for the next 5 years. God willing, we see the next 5 years and we're like, man, CD Projekt Red is still that company that's making great things. And that leads me into the second part of this whole, podcast discussion, whatever the heck it is we're doing here. And that's, what's Massive up to these days? If you guys have been watching my Division content, I've been putting out some videos talking about Avatar game. As I'm recording this, there's another one scheduled to drop very soon. And I've been looking deep into what Massive is doing. And I'm hoping that this James Cameron Avatar game actually, infuses some life into the studio. The studio has a lot of talent, but it just doesn't seem to have the resources to actually manage its products. I feel like the people that are in the management are in a learning phase. Like they're just getting all these huge hits, or I don't know what's going on. But I'm just hoping that the studio can actually get their acts together and actually come out strong from this. But I'm not going to discuss that too much because I wanted to, go ahead and speak a little bit about 2019, the gaming scene from 2019 and what we've actually seen so far. Now, if you think about it, if you think about 2019, think about how the year started. It started out very, very strong. There were some really good releases that came right out the door. There was Resident Evil. There was Devil May Cry. Capcom won that first quarter of this year. They literally won. Kingdom Hearts came out. Bandai Namco tried to drop Jump Force. Didn't really pick a lot of interest, except for those who are hardcore into the anime. And then Metro Exodus was actually a very good game, which Metro Exodus and its developers might not live, away. They might not just live away that reputation of going the Epic exclusivity the way that they did. It's not just about the exclusivity. I mean, I purchase games on Epic Games. I don't, like I've said before, I don't have Steam loyalty, but I do publish games on Epic Games Store. I think it's the approach that the publisher actually took that really lost them a lot of goodwill, because Metro would have been placed on the wall as one of these very good games. Yes, it had its, on the console version, it had its breaking right off the bat. I haven't experienced some technical difficulties on PC because I think that was the first game I purchased on the Epic Games Store. And, after just a few issues, I think I got off, running, and, it was all good from there. But you have to still consider that the community was not too pleased about the way they handled all of that. And like I said, there is no amount of DLC or microtransactions that you can sell that can outsell goodwill from the gaming community at large. And that's what CD Projekt Red is enjoying. And I wish that the Metro developers could enjoy that goodwill from, the community being happy at the way they had treated them. The publisher was thinking short term. They were not thinking the long game. And the long game is always better because, and the reason I even brought up Metro Exodus and I'm comparing it against The Witcher 3 is because, they have kind of similar origins. Both games were developed from books. The difference though between Metro and the difference between The Witcher is that Metro was actually developed. The Metro Exodus was developed closely with the author, so he was brought into the process. Whereas in the case of The Witcher, I think they just kind of went ahead and said, "Hey, we'll just take the work and we'll make our games from it." And there was a royalty agreement with the author. Actually, there was not a royalty agreement. I think there was a scuffle where the author wanted more money because he said no, he wanted a payment outright, and then later on came back and said he wanted more money. And CD Projekt Red just went ahead and, out of good faith, they did right by the author and still went ahead and honored, just kind of a sentimental contract, which is something that they felt like, okay, this is done so well. This work belongs to this person. And probably when he was not selling, but when he was giving the rights away, he wasn't thinking that The Witcher was going to become anything. Even he probably didn't even have enough confidence in his product to actually go and become pretty much one of the best games that's been made. And so these are some of the things that the gaming world will still need to learn. They and the thing is, you can't calculate the profits that you never got to make. And you have to go back and kick yourself as well for the profits that you could have made if you had only done right by the community. And then, you look at that month again of February, you look at Anthem, how that game launched. It was a big mess. You could not see any way EA could recover from that because their reputation was already on fire. And then that game made the Division 2 look good. When the Division launched in March, it just made the Division 2 look like a well-polished product because the Division 2, for all its faults, did drop something of a solid product at that point in time. The only thing is their end game was not there. So they had a solid opening game, better than Anthem, but they had almost no end game, and they had no end game, sorry, available for players at launch. And so that was a problem, because I remember, and everybody remembers, Julian Garrity went to all those talk and said, we started with an end game mindset, end game focus first. He said end game. If you could get a penny for every time Julian Garrity said end game, you'd probably be wealthy by now. And so those are some of the issues that we face in terms of how a lot of developers want to sell their games based on just hype, and then there's nothing to deliver. They sell with good marketing, beautiful CGI graphics and all that stuff, and the game has nothing to show for it. Whereas, yes, The Witcher does have cinematic good stuff, and once the game was powered on, there was like an art interpretation, which is really nice to see. I was really excited, because that's something that I love seeing, where there's a narrative that's convincing, good voice acting, by the way, and then they have these little threads showing showing different pictures of events going on. And then there's also a CGI representation of events as well. And then you jump right into the game, and yeah, sure, the CGI graphics are better, but the game's graphics are actually good. They're super good for what a game needs to be. I wouldn't even play those CGI graphics, because I like the way the game's representation is actually well done. The colors, the way the world is represented, the way sand looks like sand. The sun looks like the sun. The vegetation looks like the vegetation. And so you don't want to market empty shells. You don't want to market that to people, because that's going to do you in on the long run. And Ubisoft is actually picking up the pieces from there, because if we, continue to track all the way down to the fall, that's where we had a lot of problems. We had Ghost Recon Breakpoint show up, and the game did not do well. So 2019 was a mixed bag. Everybody was celebrating the beginning, and then there was Anthem, and then everybody was like, yeah, we can still deal with the beginning. But then at the end, there were also some celebrations as well. There was Monster Hunter World, the DLC Iceborne, that did so well. That was phenomenal. And so Capcom won the year. As many people may not want to say it, many people are talking about Death Stranding, talking about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, but many people fail to realize that Capcom dropped, I think, 3 games this year? Let's see. Let me Google it real quick. So Capcom game releases this year. So December 19, 2019, there's an article here on GameSpot that says Capcom is absolutely killing it right now. Yes, because they finally tapped into that vision, and they went after it. They did Monster Hunter World, they did Devil May Cry, and then they did Resident Evil. And then they even went ahead to even drop this Street Fighter Championship Edition as well, which is something that you can get in February if you want to pay very little for. If you only want to pay $24.99, you get it in February. But if you go ahead and buy Street Fighter 5, and then you can also go ahead and purchase that Championship Edition, and that will be available to you. So I think this year Capcom is the winner with 3 games that all did well. Well, 1 DLC sort of, but 2 major games that did well, and 1 major DLC that has done well, which the DLC, reports is still not complete, because you have to think about, the PC release. The PC release is going to be coming out January 9th. So they're not done yet. They're still going to win some more. So I just don't understand, why is this a difficulty for people to understand and for developing teams to understand? And I think Capcom, they really set their marketing strategy right. They did a Resident Evil remake. I read a report that actually said one of the reasons Capcom went with the Resident Evil remake, and the reason they're going for the Resident Evil remakes, is because of name recognition. Players already recognize that. And then they went for a Devil May Cry game too, which is also a game based on recognition. And then they went for the DLC for Monster Hunter World, which was already a success for them when it was released. And so they understand that, hey, we need to bring back our old IPs, but we need to do it the right way. And so I hope Ubisoft and EA can learn from this experience, because they're the ones picking up the dirt on the floor, and Capcom is coming. And don't forget Capcom next year. They announced this year at the Game Awards that there's going to be a Resident Evil 3 remake, I think. And so that's something that a lot of players are already looking forward to. So I guess the theory still lands that if you're gonna make games, make good games, make games that gamers can respect, make games that show that you value the community. And I think everything just eventually takes care of itself, especially if you're using name recognition. So, we're looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077. It's a game that doesn't have any precedent in terms of, what a Cyberpunk game like of that magnitude can be. It's CD Projekt's Red. It's a new IP for them. So I think the goodwill of The Witcher is what they're going to use to sell it. Because they have to announce it from the makers of The Witcher 3. That's what people are going to be like, oh, the Witcher 3 people made the game. It may not be their cup of tea, but they will support the studio. And so these are some of the things that we're looking at, because gaming is in a very, very, in a very revealing place now. I think that's what this year actually showed. The winners are going to win, and those who don't want to make video games that are valuable are not going to win. They're not going to win. Their numbers are going to drop. Their numbers are going to fall. Call of Duty has been making the same game for years and years and years, and they use the same formula, following the same pattern, doing what their community wants, even though Activision has it, they have their own quirks as well. Somehow they're able to continue to get away with it because, as crazy as it is, they do know how to make games. They understand the core basis. And even though sometimes, their greed will show, they're still able to get away with it. They have a fan base, and so they milk their fan base as much as possible, which if people stop buying their games, they will adjust their ways. But it seems like people want to keep buying Call of Duty. So, hey, they will continue doing whatever it is that they're doing. But nonetheless, they're able to still at least deliver a good game on the base level, when many companies that are around the same caliber as them won't even do that. Imagine EA, will not even bring Anthem fully done. And so the winners and the losers of 2019, they all know themselves. It's not like I want to celebrate. I don't want to celebrate anybody. I don't want to celebrate anybody losing. I want to celebrate winners. But at the same time, it's just the way the world is. If you're losing because you're doing what's wrong, then you ought to go back to the drawing board and say we need to do the right things. And I think this is where gaming is going to be leading in the next few months. I don't think any gaming company has years to do anything now, because game production is, skyrocketing. Sony is bringing out that Dreams platform, hopefully very soon. Oh, that's going to literally break the internet once people start creating their own little mini gaming experiences. These are really cool things that are up to come. And I think what we can do is we can discuss them on a different podcast. So this podcast, I think we're going to be posting it maybe once a week. So that way we have maybe 4 a month. If you guys enjoy it, let me know. If the format is pretty whack, let me know as well. This is the podcast where you give your feedback. I'm trying a 30-minute run because it's very difficult to put out 1 hour just now. But if I need to make it longer, then I can do recording sections separately, and then splice them together to make a more robust offering and all that good stuff. But I hope that was informative for you guys. The Witcher's winning. CD Projekt Red is winning, even though they haven't dropped any game, except some card games and all that stuff. Even when I think they even took off support for, I think it's Gwent or something from console. They removed support from that, or Thronebreaker or something like that. One of their games, they were like, yeah, we're not supporting this, but nobody even really cared. But they're still winning nonetheless from an old game that they made 5 years ago. Capcom, definitely the winner this year. Didn't talk about Death Stranding because, it's like beating a dead horse. Probably do a whole, podcast where I dedicate a segment to Sekiro. But I have to play the game first. I have to at least, play like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of the game to be able to give some sort of a meaty opinion about it. So that's why I'm not speaking about Sekiro, because I know that one game of the year. We can talk about that later. And, there are just so many things that we can talk about from 2019. And so I think, this January that we're, doing these sections where we're going to use it to do some reflection. And then we're going to look forward, to see some of the things that are coming. So That's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time and audience. If you made it to the end, I appreciate you so much. This is just something that you guys have been pushing forward. You guys are, very, very inspiring community. And I do appreciate y'all so much. Thank you once again for your time and audience. And I'll see you in episode 2 of the Gameydaddy podcast. Peace.